Good now, revolutionaries, and welcome to the Rise Up Morning Show.
The Rise Up Morning Show.
It ain't no power line, but there ain't no Keith either. Thank you, Keith, for the jingle that keeps on giving. It is Monday, April 14th. Welcome to the show, whether you're listening live with us on TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, or in the future to the recording. Thank you. We hope wherever you are, your candles are green. Did you guys have a good weekend?
I had a very, very boring weekend without my girlfriend. She was in Florida visiting a friend for her birthday, and I had a goal. I said, I'm not going to spend a single dollar this weekend. And
really?
That was my
Spoiler
goal.
alert.
I did not reach that goal, but I only spent $26. So I feel that is a pretty big win, particularly because a dinner for two in Boston is almost always $160.
Yeah, man. Ooh.
Yeah.
That's wild. $26 in Boston on the weekend?
Yeah.
I'm proud, man. That's like, what did
It
you?
was pretty good.
Did you just eat the food at home?
Yeah, I ate the food at home. I finished my book, which was the third book in the Fourth Wing series, which is A, not a good series, but B, the third book was truly horrendous. And I watched it like you watch a movie that you know is bad but has explosions, and you go, explosions. And that's how I read the book. I've never read a book with my brain turned off as heavily as that book. But I finished it. And the 22 of those $26 was spent on downloadable content for Total War Warhammer 3, which I then was playing on my gaming computer, which is fitting for our backstage conversation. But it was a good weekend. Nice, cheap, chill. It was rainy and crappy in Boston. Now my girlfriend's back, and the world is right again.
Nice, cheap, chill. I worked with my GPT after some inspiration with Alex on finding a couple of routines for my schedule, including like show days, off days, travel days, gig days, and it gave me these little mantras that like cheap chill kind of made me think one of the mantras it gave me is
Careful with that word,
early.
Evan. It's a hot word.
I know. We're gonna get into it.
Wait, what's a hot word today?
Mantra is a hot word today.
Oh, I was like cheap and chill. Yeah, mantra.
Yeah. My mantras are things like move early, create early, land early, or like rest, reset, restore. But those mantras.
Did you say mantra?
Yeah. Sorry about that. We will talk about it. But first, tell me, Alex, how was your weekend?
It was good. It was the inverse. I had the inverse Watson weekend.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It was absolutely gorgeous all weekend. It was like the perfect. This is that time in Savannah where it's like just around 80 and just like sunny with like the ocean breeze every day. It was perfect. And then I spent a lot of money because I I bought a new TV.
Hey,
and
did you get Samsung?
No, I did not buy a Samsung. LG over Samsung every time.
No, Samsung's always better. Anyway,
Not
continue
for-
with
not
your
for
wrong
TVs.
opinions. Continue with your wrong opinions. It's fine.
Not for TVs, my sweet, sweet child. Anyway, I got it at Costco. Shout out. And not sponsored, but we should be. I love Costco.
Like Costco?
I'd take
Yes.
it.
I'll take it. Do we get $1.50 hot dogs?
I am not.
Hey.
I'm not alone here. Costco is incredible. I would agree with Jeff. It was between this LG and a Sony, but I've had an LG for a while. I have an LG CX, and I love that TV. And so this is the newest version of that. The I don't remember what it's, the LG Evo something or other. Anyway, it's humongous. Christina is thrilled. She thinks it's ridiculous. The box was so big, I had to drive the Tundra, and two, the box took up the entire bed of the truck. Like it could not have been
Love that.
an inch in any direction bigger. It's a 77-inch TV, and it's fucking awesome. I'm very
That's
excited
American,
about it.
man. That's an American TV.
That
right
is
there.
American right there.
American Japanese made TV. What could be better? Well, my friends, let us know how your weekend is going. We got a lot of W's for Costco on the live chat, but wherever you are, you can leave us a comment and tell us what you're thinking. ask us your crypto question. And if you're on the live show, we'll get to your crypto questions in just a minute. We got some news headlines. We got another thing to talk about. Will, what's so funny?
I'm just laughing at this is the second time I've like laughed pretty hard already at a comment in the TikTok chat. It's Linda, Alex's mother, going hearing the story, going lol, oh geez, but I'm just like hearing it in like a stereotypical mom voice, just like
I thought you were laughing. She also wrote the comment, "Where did we go wrong?"
Do not. All right, I'm gonna put. Don't let my mother fool you, because not only did I call my mother on the way to Costco, because nothing on earth is more fitting of nothing could make a Costco trip more of a Costco trip than calling my mom on the way out there. But I told her exactly what I was doing.
Mama knew.
This
Mom,
is a
you knew.
gross misrepresentation of the
You
facts.
knew, and you did nothing to stop it. She's like, well, when I come and visit, there'll be a nice new TV.
There'll be a nice TV. So we got some questions coming in already. Alex, can you be my guy in the chat? We've got questions about like Bitcoin,
Always.
88,000. What's your thoughts? If
Mantra,
you've got your
mantra.
question, we want to hear it. I thought to spark some question and to talk about the maybe most pressing leading news story, I'd give you just a couple of headlines first. So without further ado,
Rapid fire crypto news.
we got a couple of headlines for you from Alex in the helicopter.
That was so nice.
April 14th. So, if you missed it last week, here are probably the biggest things going on, maybe in order of importance, but I don't know, maybe not. We'll find out how everybody feels. So, the first one is that Google announced what some people are calling the next layer of the internet. It's A2A, agent to agent protocol. This is a standardization format that will allow different AI agents from over 50 partners like Atlassian, Salesforce, PayPal to have interoperable AI solutions so that devs can build agents that can talk to each other regardless of who built them or what their underlying operating systems are. And everybody here knows AI is becoming a bigger part of our daily lives, our business operations. So the need for standardized communication protocols is growing. Crypto is, of course, on top of this problem, but Google said, hey, we'd like to own that solution, literally. And this is a pretty meaningful first step. You can check out more about that if you want to on Google's developer blog or just by searching Google agent to agent A2A protocol. We'll definitely have more about that in the weeks ahead. Next, something that got my attention, and I totally missed it until Laura Shin blipped it on their little news podcast. Tether, the issuer of the world's largest stablecoin, USDT, is exploring the launch of a US-specific stablecoin. You know, we get a lot of Tether FUD. Well, they've been delisted in Europe and yada, yada, so on and so forth. Circle's bigger here, but CEO Paolo Ardoino, I don't know, indicated that this move...
All right, that's it. That's the show. We're done.
Yeah, cut it.
My
That's it.
apologies,
We'll see you guys
Paolo,
next
you
week.
know.
Hey, no, it just ends with my apologies.
Somewhere William Quigley is just shaking his head, you know.
Screen to black.
The goal is to offer, he says, a stablecoin that functions similarly to a U.S. checking account, aligning with regulatory changes under the current administration. Listen, man.
Sorry, no, that last like schoolboy giggle out of Alex just kind of broke me. I was keeping it back in.
I wasn't emotionally ready for that.
You know, if you're fudding on Tether because they aren't regulatorily compliant, don't be too early to quit the race on them. And if you want to learn more about that, we pulled up an article from Axios.com. I'll put it in the show notes. And now for fun news before we get to heavy news. I don't know if you guys heard this, but did you know that Conor McGregor launched his like official meme coin
No.
last week? Okay, so get this.
No, but I'm sure it's doing great.
No, it's not.
Oh, it's
MMA
not?
superstar Conor McGregor launched
Who could have seen this coming?
a meme coin, $ or ticker, whatever you say, real, REAL, and the sale ended abruptly after it failed to meet its $1 million minimum fundraising goal. The project raised just $392,000 during its 28-hour pre-sale, leading to the refunding of investors. There was a lot of complaints about the tokenomics, the marketing strategies.
Wait, but they refunded people?
They refunded people. It was sort
Hold
of
on.
a pre-sale.
Evan, this is officially the most successful celebrity meme coin in crypto history.
You got your money back. Yeah.
Yeah, they
Well done, Conor McGregor.
they
Good
did
job.
in fact get a
You
return
dumb-
on their investment.
Can you imagine
But
being
yeah.
so fucking stupid that you could
Yeah.
walk into crypto and like, well, everyone else who has done this has failed to the tune of how many people have done? Mine will be different. You imagine how stupid you have to be?
Well, that
to
just
look at
depends
this and
on
be like,
what your
mine
goal
is
is.
special.
If your goal is I'm going to sell all these tokens immediately, then you could probably be pretty successful.
Yeah, it was
but,
only
like,
688 people who bought it.
Well, that might be
hundreds
that-
of thousands of dollars.
Honestly,
maybe that'll be more votes that he gets for being the president or prime minister of Ireland. I forget what the
We
percentage
had
is.
a lot more we had about what, like 3 or 4 times more holders than that, maybe 5 for TFM. You know, and who
Yeah.
who knows us? Nobody. So
3,000.
Conor McGregor, if you need some help, call us. And our final
Hey, Connor, don't call me.
A Habib fan.
Don't come for me.
Our final story today is perhaps the biggest story of the day, which is this weekend. Mantra OM lost over 90% of its market cap in about as many minutes, a single candle. The OM token, which is associated with the Mantra blockchain, had a dramatic Luna-esque collapse, losing almost all of its value on April 13th. The sudden drop went from $6.3 billion to, $6.5 billion to below $500 million, an equivalent $6.30 to 50 cents token drop. And there's a lot of speculation about this. At the time I did my initial research, the Mantra team had not really given a clear, this is what happened. And as you can see on the screen share on YouTube here, like right after their comment, you've got, Zach XBT trolling him in the comments, everybody coming after them to say, hey, we need an explanation on this. And shout out to their CEO, a guy named JP Mullen. This guy made a really great crisis response where he talked about what happened. He said that this was a low liquidity event. He called it negligence at best, or possibly it might have looked like marketing poisoning by centralized exchanges. This was not caused by the team. We will do a community space on X. We'll discuss our response further. So they have faced a lot of allegations, but they're meeting them head on. Cointelegraph, for example, is probably the most concise example of what everyone is saying, that this is supposedly, allegedly, early investors dumping OM tokens to cause or possibly ahead of an event that caused the crash. There's
So
on-chain data
natural,
showing
so
a bunch of
natural
money.
selling.
Yeah, there's on-chain data showing $227 million in tokens moved to exchanges ahead of the collapse. Nothing definitive has come out yet, but I thought the crisis response was noteworthy. And obviously, if somebody was holding OM tokens, I'm so sorry you got wrecked. Go ahead, Alex.
I was just going to say, if I look at this chart, this doesn't say, there's nothing normal about this. Will, what kind of TA can you do on a healthy correction like this?
Well, you start to see a little bit of a healthy correction here, and then the gnomes of technical analysis tripped on after stubbing their toe on a magical fairy route, then fell down a cliff like a lemming. And
yeah,
then
this is
once,
the cliff pattern.
Once one
Yep.
of the lemmings saw it, all the other lemmings that were OMOGs also tripped and stubbed their toe on the magical route and fell down after the lemming. Then they hit here, but their bodies bounced up a little bit in like a bit of pink mist, and then the wind took the pink mist and just smeared them on the bottom of the cliff.
You just make
And
that
that's
up
why it's
off
all
the
red.
top of your head.
Correct.
Well done.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I think
honestly,
that's exactly what happened.
It was
That
creative
is.
and beautiful.
Yeah.
It does look like the classic lemming pattern.
We'll just
in the
we'll
comments,
just call we'll just call that the lemming pattern.
The classic
comments-
lemming pattern.
Danny Sai says G.
The classic lemming pattern.
That's a ding.
Yeah.
That was a good
Yeah,
one.
that's
Yeah.
a ding for sure. Great TA, great comments, and I am so sorry. I am interested to see how they recover. There has been a lot of conversation from their Twitter account saying our protocol is fundamentally strong. Several supporters have come out to say, hey, we really love what they're building. We think this is a momentary blip caused by market conditions, not by the team, not by, a fundamental flaw in their protocol. We'll see.
There's no way that I could get behind like a deliberate attack of some sort because that's so insane. But I have a very hard time hearing the phrase normal market conditions.
We'd have one thing that'd be interesting is to see if there was a big unlock of tokens to investors in recent days, like angel investors or whatever. And they were just like, cool, markets suck right now. I have a lot of money here, dump all of it. And they all just sold. We've after chatting with a few teams, that happens. And then they get pissed off at their investors, and their investors who said they'd be there and they'd hold the tokens after they got them and stuff, then just absolutely dump on them. And it's a complete destruction of trust. We've seen that happen before too. So it could be something like that, which would be very unfortunate for the Mantra team because this is going to be real bad PR for them for maybe forever.
Unless
I don't think that's what happened.
I would say I'm not like 100% confident in this, but my guess, if I had to come up with something, would be that if this isn't like immediately, and I mean in the next couple days, identified as a specific malicious attack that has some sort of path to recovery, that thing's dead. It's never coming back.
Yeah. So what they speculate is they say that the movements were triggered. This is the Mantra, the team. Were triggered by reckless, forced closures initiated by centralized exchanges on Ohm account holders. This is quoted from JP Mullen. The timing and depth of the crash suggests that a very sudden closure of account positions was initiated without sufficient warning or notice. And his response to all the comments saying, okay, who did it? Name names. If you're so confident that this is what happened, tell us. The official party line here is we're compiling all the info and we'll share in due course. This is 12 hours ago he said this. And the fact that they're being so responsive and so transparent and so active makes me think that they're going to come out and probably say it. And, if I had to guess, the deepest exchange with the most liquidity for this token is Binance. And they have several pairs that have deep liquidity for this token. But, we'll see. Like you said, Alex, if they can't prove it, how are they coming back from this? Although, fun trivia fact, the price of Mantra is actually just a little bit better than it was a year ago today. I zoomed out on the chart. We got that lemming pattern. And so, if you're just waking up and it's like you fell asleep for 2024, maybe it's a good time to invest if you really believe in the future of the protocol.
Yeah, just know that that's not the edge of the chart there. Where we are right now.
That's what John Whalen says. Good entry on Mantra. I don't know, John. It could be the move.
Let's see. What's their DeFi Llama definitely isn't picking up. That can't be real. DeFi Llama says they only have $3.2 million in TVL, but I feel like that's not right.
I don't think that's right either.
No.
I don't think that's right.
Sounds like the same way that stuff like Ripple and Stellar and whatever is reported on.
Yeah.
If DeFi Llama is not allowed to query everything, then they don't have good data. So
yeah.
Okay. So if you let us know how you're feeling about it, if you lost it, if you had never held it, if you're beyond it, and then Alex, I see we have a couple of other questions. We had teased last week about doing a little debate about story protocol. And I know, Will, you said you wanted a little more time to look at tokenomics. I am glad to talk about it, but I also wanted to defer first just to see what kind of questions do we have in the comments. And I did think it might be worth taking a look at Bitcoin because somebody said, so what's Bitcoin going to do? I saw that once or twice. Considering it's had an up, a down, an up, down. And Will, I know you've got thoughts about where it might go next, but
Yeah.
Alex, what are you seeing in the comments?
Here's an interesting one, actually. So, from Gentle Storm, Mantra owners have a lot of Ondo, Sol, and Link. Is that concerning? And I think it's an interesting question because, like technically, no, it shouldn't be concerning at all. There's no relation to any of these things. Now, I will say there's a couple unknowns, right? Like we're not sure exactly what happened with Mantra. It's too soon to say. Haven't seen. Who knows? So, if something was like maliciously attacked by doing something through a centralized exchange, if that part is true, then theoretically other tokens could be at risk of something similar happening. However, after a spotlight, I mean, if that's proven to be true, then a spotlight of insane proportion will be shined on these things. So that I would be a little bit, I don't think I wouldn't necessarily.
Then also we would have seen it
worrying about
happen way before. If it was like a problem with the centralized exchange, which in this case would probably be Binance, that would have happened a long time ago. It's not like Binance is a new player to the block.
No, yeah, and
I think people are calling it more of an attack than a problem, like them doing something shady.
I feel like it's just it's hard. I would have to go back and look on chain to see how centralized the holdings were, but it could have also just been a coin that had like 15 to 20% centralized in the top 50 holders, and 3 of them started to sell. Others started to see that those whales started to sell and just started to cascade. Lemming. Really, it really is like a lemmings, that kind of thing where you see one fall off the cliff and the rest fall off the cliff like idiots. But in this case, it's wealth preservation. So like it really could have just been that. You could have had a high concentration of OM in a couple wallets. They started dumping everything. The other big wallets started dumping everything, and then you really just had a cascade of gigantic sales that then started liquidations.
And Mike says 90. The number was 90% concentrated. I assume he's just referencing because that's where the value.
Yeah. So if Mike knew that if it was 90% concentrated in the top 50 wallets, then that's one of the reasons why in the altcoin review videos that we, used to do, we should do one of those again by bringing out the whiteboard. That's one of the things we looked at. Yeah. You take a look at tokenomics, and if they're highly centralized, most of the supply is in the top 50, top 100 wallets. You have the risk of this sort of thing exactly happening. In a natural way where nothing potentially wrong even happened. But if a couple big whales sell, you start liquidating, other people sell, liquidations get worse, and you have a 90% drop in a day. That can happen. That's a risk. That's why you got to take a look at tokenomics and learn how to read on-chain data and get past listening to just influencers.
That's right.
You got to make sure you arm yourself.
Real quick, as a Web3 101 aside, if that's something that you're working on doing, then honestly, there are several ways you can get started. And all of them are easier than you would think. Really, the first, simplest way is to take your question to your favorite AI assistant and ask it, what is the token distribution? What are the tokenomics, spelled just like it sounds, tokenomics of X project? Search the internet. See what they say. Excuse me. Tokenomist.io is a good website that you can use to fact check what GPT or Claude or Poe tell you. It'll talk about upcoming unlocks of the token, who the tokens are being unlocked to, when. And then, of course, if you're doing this alone, you're doing it wrong, my friend. You should be in a group chat. You should be in some kind of community, not just some influencers' comments on the internet. And the place I recommend you go is the Rise Up Discord, discord.gg/riseup. You can find that and all of our official links at theriseupmorningshow.com. But it's a great free place to go find other learners, all levels of experience from all around the world, to ask a question, get a second opinion, fact check yourself, brother. And really, the only thing missing, my friends, is you. So check it out. Mr. Will Watson, I think I rugged you on Bitcoin. I know you were getting ready to tell us where you think it was going. I just wanted to hear an audience question, but please, what is going on with Bitcoin?
So I'm not going to talk about the short-term thing for range for Bitcoin because I have a video out. You can go watch that. Talks about the short-term and what I'm about to talk about too. Because I think what I'm about to talk about is the timeline of events that we have has been edited. And what I mean by that, I'm going to talk about macro, and I'm going to talk about how it's going to affect Bitcoin's price. Okay. So going into this weekend, we were very, very excited. Markets were very, very excited because we got the news that technology was going to, like smartphones, semiconductors, a whole bunch of stuff was going to be totally exempt. That's the part that's going to change, the totally part. Totally exempt from the 145% tariffs against China. Markets were like, oh, sweet. That's amazing. You combine that with the 90-day delay on those other big tariffs. We're pretty excited by this news. Go into the weekend. Saturday hits. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, obviously as a part of the White House Commerce Secretary, says, actually, they're not totally exempt. We actually have plans for semiconductor tariffs, but that could hit in a month or two. And then yesterday you had a tweet, whatever it's called, a truth from President Trump on Sunday saying that he was going to have conversations about semiconductor tariffs on Monday at some point today. So we've had this reprieve and breath in markets because of the 90-day delay, as that's being extenuated because tech stocks are getting a lot of relief as well for an indiscriminate amount of time, maybe a day, maybe a month, maybe 2 months, and so the stock market and therefore Bitcoin should have a bit of a reprieve for a little bit. And then we have been told, and this is where I get to that timeline of events. So we're going to have that reprieve. We've been having it. It could continue for an indiscriminate amount of time, up to 2 months potentially. The markets are forward looking, so I wouldn't expect more than a month at best of a reprieve in markets. And then the screws are going to get tightened again with tariffs for technology stocks, in particular for technology pieces. You could see the trade war escalate all over again with China and other things, and then you could see the markets crash again. Okay, that's that timeline of events that we have now been set before us by the president and the White House. And that brings us to the TA portion. And if you've been watching my videos for a while, I have been talking about how ever since we hit our high in January, we have been on an A wave correction down. What I'm about to talk about, it's hard with a chart, but just know that this is something called Elliott wave theory. It states that price movement moves upwards in waves of 5. And afterwards, 80 to 90% of the time, you have what is called an A, a B, and then a C correction, where that B wave upwards, which is where we are right now, that is what pairs up with that macros time frame. We got that 90-day delay. The tech stocks are going to get a break, right? All of that is opening up now that we've had that A correction down to like 74K, to have a B wave upwards and then a C wave down. Have that B wave upwards for a month. The screws get tightened on the trade war again. You have a perfect setup to have a completion of your C correction down. Where is that correction downwards going to be? I don't know. Does it have to happen? Of course it doesn't have to happen. It's just a risk that you should have on your radar screen that has a very high, I'm a dragon, that has a very high probability of happening. You can go fact check that on ChatGPT. I have shown those facts on my videos as well. But that's what I'm thinking about for Bitcoin. In the short term, things can be good for at least the next few days. Afterwards, you start getting into overbought, overextended territory. If we have a sell-off there, does it make a higher low and can the market continue? Or does it make a lower low off of news that semiconductors are getting hit with 100% tariff? You just don't know. And what I want to let people know is you can do all the TA you want, but with the macro picture getting changed on a dime every few seconds, you have to really kind of keep your ears open for the news, because the macro environment shapes financial asset markets. So yeah, that's what I'll say.
Beautiful. We have a good follow-up question here for someone looking for a little more clarity. We've all talked about how liquidity affects Bitcoin, but Will, can you give a nice cherry on top summary for your thoughts
on how liquidity shapes Bitcoin?
Yeah, and just as context here, maybe are you familiar with Arthur Hayes? We've never really talked about Arthur Hayes on this show.
I know the name. So
Arthur Hayes, he's I forget which perps exchange he did, if it's BitMEX, BitViva, a big one.
Oh, yes. It was Bitfinex.
Bitfinex, that's right. Bitfinex, Arthur Hayes, and now he's the CEO of, I think it's Hayes Capital. He's the only LP. It's basically just him investing with a team. And his whole thesis is about liquidity. And specifically, recently he's articulated a very bullish outlook on Bitcoin, attributing it to anticipated liquidity injections by the Fed, by all the stuff we've been talking about, driven by Trump crashing the economy, get some stimulus. So this person was just asking, do you think, generally speaking, liquidity affects Bitcoin? And I told them, yes, we all think liquidity affects Bitcoin, but I thought you would be most well equipped, since we're talking about Bitcoin and macro right now, to give an answer.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely does. Like, as global liquidity goes up, and if you don't know what that means, it just means the total amount of available cash in the global financial system. As that goes up, there's more money around, so more money flows into assets and tends to make their price go up, right? And the more money there is, the more comfortable people feel. The more comfortable people feel, the more willing they are to buy risk on assets, things like altcoins. Okay, so money go up, risk on assets go up. And a lot of people view Bitcoin as a risk on assets still. So Bitcoin go up. But that's also the same for stocks too.
I have heard him recently, and I've heard a number of other people who, just are hedge fund managers or capital markets makers, people who are watching and tracking the movements of money and speculating on it for their job, are really torn. But increasingly, I feel like the signal is turning that folks like that are very bullish about the end of the year. Everybody's very excited about the hurdles we've cleared. Paul Atkins is in the seat at the SEC. We've already got some meaningful legislation on the table. And if we get liquidity, then let's go, baby, is kind of what people are saying that I am seeing.
It was interesting. Yesterday, I was in a Twitter space with a guy who's very well connected in the traditional financial world. And he's like, listen, nobody here cares about what happens to Bitcoin in the short term. Everyone here just wants to buy more Bitcoin because they view it as a dramatic discount as compared to buying gold at these levels. And at the same time, like, we all know that the money printer is getting turned on pretty soon. So like, if Bitcoin were to fall 30% right now, I'm just going to keep buying it. My friends are just going to keep buying it. I'm starting to get more people excited about Bitcoin as the price of gold goes up, because they're like, this was an interesting statement. It was the United States government and financial system isn't worried about gold potentially being a threat to the dollar unless it doubles to triples from where its current value now. The US government and financial system isn't worried about Bitcoin replacing the US dollar, putting pressure on it, unless Bitcoin moves upwards of a magnitude of 20x. He's like, that's the difference. And he's like, so a lot of us are looking at Bitcoin as just like incredibly discounted opportunity right now. If you want to add to your portfolio, that is a hedge against inflation and bad times and all that kind of stuff. I could buy gold, but it's so overbought right now. I'll buy Bitcoin. And it's there. He's like, those conversations are happening more and more right now. Because I asked him, what are the conversations in Wall Street right now with gold having done so well over the past few months and Bitcoin not? And they're like, everyone here is forward looking. The people who are buying gold right now are retail. The institutional investors are kind of chilling on their gold, and they're looking at opportunities in Bitcoin and exploring new options. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. It's like the opposite of the retail mindset.
Alex, I feel like this is teeing you up. Solom said it in the chat. I don't know if you saw it, but he was saying, what are your thoughts on crushing the markets, indicating via manipulation to let institutions load their bags in order to let them enrich themselves and everything? We talk about this all the time on the show.
Yeah. I think that this one is not about institutions. This in particular is about a small handful of exclusive billionaires. I mean, and the evidence for that is they were standing in a circle in the Oval with the president, congratulating them on how much money they made from that movement. Like it could not be more obvious if they hung a fucking banner on the side of the highway. So to be honest, like it doesn't interest me that much because it's obvious like what's happening. It's just, that's why, Will, I think it's interesting to look at like the correlation between a pattern, a long-term macro pattern like Elliott wave compared to market movements that are exactly timed with one person's tweets. And the fact that like every time something gets announced, the people who are announcing it pretend that it is the end all be all. And then the next time an announcement comes out, it's pretending that this was the plan all along, which is just, it seems so random. And it's very interesting to me that it happens to line up with some sort of a larger pattern. And I'm very curious to see if that like holds, because the conditions by which this pattern is fulfilling are very different than they would typically be, where there are multiple contributing factors.
That was the same thought I had, where I was like, If this A, B, C correction happens very, very smoothly when you really zoom out on the charts, then you go, oh, okay, the market makers were just pushing it in that direction to fulfill.
Because obviously we are not the only people on Earth who are aware of this idea of Elliott wave. So if you want to, I mean, do the TA thing, right? Like I've long said that I hold a lot of speculation about TA as a practice, believing that it is a self-fulfilling prophecy, because especially at this point, it's so widespread. These patterns are so well known. Everyone is talking about the exact same thing.
Trading bots are programmed for them.
Exactly. Yeah. I feel like we have just manufactured a market to behave the way that it has behaved. And there's no matter which kind of like deviation from the pattern that is currently being looked at happens, you fit into some other type of known pattern. And now you can fulfill that prophecy. Yeah. Which is honestly why I don't pay attention to it. Just because it's a lot. It's hard to take it too seriously. But in that same vein, if what I just said is accurate, it would be a testament to the fact that these patterns are worth knowing about. Yeah. Because, you know, that's how it would go. I did want to say that someone asked a question about, you know, what does this feel like Bitcoin is decoupling? And I said that I believe it might be starting to. And I was going to say one of the reasons that I say that is just because, you know, the audience of people aware of Bitcoin and who have a more than, you know, super critical opinion of it, you know, maybe people who are just kind of generally ambivalent to it, don't really care, but like accept that it's an asset and not exclusively some vehicle for crime, as was the case not that long ago. If gold is doing as well as it's doing, you know, what is gold at the end of the day? It's a way to opt out of markets. It's a decoupled asset that has behaved by itself. It's the globally accepted, or the most globally accepted hedge against all this nonsense. And what is Bitcoin? You know, it's been referred to as digital gold a lot. It's becoming more and more popular. We're seeing, we heard from Katie Evans not that long ago. She used to work at the London Metal Exchange, was talking about the process by which, you know, gold is purchased and ordered, and how many weeks behind, like the London Metal Exchange is currently behind on shipping and fulfillment. And you know, obviously, you know, gold is not hard capped at supply, but it is not an infinite resource. So, you know, it's possible to experience supply crunches with gold, especially gold available for purchase and shipping, how long it takes, how expensive it is to ship. You know, if people from all over the world are trying to buy it from this place or that place, whatever. Bitcoin doesn't have any of those problems. I thought it was interesting to say, you know, that like Bitcoin would need to go up by a factor of 20 to 25 or something before it could replace the dollar. And I don't know. I know I'm not necessarily alone in saying this. I don't think that there's really any real danger of Bitcoin replacing the dollar. That they're fundamentally different things.
Yeah.
I mean, we've long said that the two can coexist not only peacefully, but the two can make each other stronger, which is kind of one of those reasons why, you know, if you are a dollar maxi, it would be silly to be anti-Bitcoin just because Bitcoin's not coming for the dollar's brand. It can't function the same way that the dollar does, and it has no desire to. It wasn't built to do that.
Well, it was more so a threat to the financial system, not necessarily the dollar. I misspoke, but it's a threat to the financial system. Were his exact words.
I think too, like, you know, maybe more so, you know, 10 years ago, but now especially with the amount of interest and pickup of stable coins as a thing in conjunction with Bitcoin, I think that the risk of that, even in and of itself, is dropping. I don't think that is getting more and more likely. I believe that, you know, Bitcoin can be used to secure the global financial system in a way to make it a little bit more, just add one more layer of protection and security to it. And Evan, I feel like we might be able to argue about that, but
I don't know. I don't think we can. I honestly don't want to get into it too much now, because I feel like we could talk about it ad nauseum and it wouldn't be that exciting for people. My thesis is that it's the first stepping stone away from money as we know it. I agree completely that it destabilizes the financial system, but it doesn't displace the dollar.
I would only say money as we know it. I agree, but not to say getting rid of money altogether, but changing the way that the money system would work.
There are like 3 more steps.
Yeah.
Just 3. I actually really want to talk about something LOL Nope, friend of the show, asked us, which is, do we think that in the ranging, do any of us speculate that Bitcoin could retest or fall below last year's lows? And for everybody playing along, if you want to play along,
thanks.
last year's lows, the lowest price last year was around $40,000 at the very start of 2024. If you can see my chart here, if you can't, if you're watching the podcast or something, I'll just describe it for you. Bitcoin has basically been up and to the right since January 2023, when it was about $16,000. Remember that, guys? Man. And
I do.
with a couple of significant dips, it has taken us all the way here. But 40,000, do we think there's any realistic possibility that it's going to hit or dip below that? I
mean, never say never.
Never
So
say
you're
never.
telling me there's a
Never say
chance.
never. I could see. I mean, maybe, but the thing is if you're looking at what you're showing, Evan, like there's so much price action between March 2024 to, let's see, I'm looking at the chart here, to September of 2024, that major consolidation area.
Yeah. Oh,
that
yeah.
seems like such a strong bottom for Bitcoin because there's just so much price action there
Yeah.
to act as support. But the low of that
Yeah.
is still 49. What's the low? $49,577. So could it dip below that? Like, sure, yeah. I mean, it could, but I'd be expecting like, I don't know, market manipulation to the nth degree. Wait, what are we having recently? Oh, wow. Market manipulation to the nth degree. Or, like full blown recession, like something, I feel like just something crazy would have to happen. But never say never.
I would agree with never say never, but also I think one of the things that was definitely being commented on very heavily while the stock market was doing its lemming the other day, the last how many days was pulling a lemming, was the resilience of Bitcoin. I mean, if you just go back a couple years, if you experienced like a drop in the stock market the way that we did, and Bitcoin would have dumped by a significant percentage, much more than it did. I mean, it felt like Bitcoin was almost unaffected by this.
That's what I was calling too. I was like, as the stock market falls 12%, which I nailed, Bitcoin's going to fall to 50 to 60K, which didn't happen at all. And it was
not even close.
No. And that's where we were like, wait, is it happening? Is the Bitcoin finally decoupling from the stock market for the first time in what feels like forever?
And see that happening, that one event, a stock market fall of 12% overall, whatever that time period was, and Bitcoin not doing it. That's literally all it takes to build an entirely new level of confidence in people who may never have had that kind of confidence before.
Yet. And to give everybody the actual percentage point during this time, why can't I find here we go. Bitcoin fell 11% and the stock market fell 12%. The fact that's
insane.
That's crazy. And also that is Bitcoin being more resilient than the stock market, because if the stock market falls 12%, you are expecting a 30% correction.
Do you think it's, I mean, I don't disagree with that at all, but do you think it's at all because Bitcoin, does it lag a little bit, or is it usually pretty close in sync? Like it's usually about one step behind.
It's usually in sync, or it's a leading indicator because the
Okay.
stock market doesn't open on the weekend. And so you'll see Bitcoin price action perfectly match post and pre-market openings and closings.
Got it. Very
for the
interesting.
stock market. Yeah.
And especially considering the up down kind of whipsaw effect that we've seen, I would say it's really impressive resilience.
Yeah. We'll just see if it continues. But as of right now, it's back lockstep, right hand in hand with the stock market over the past 5 days.
Well, anything could happen, and our question asker, LOL Nope, said, I'm thinking the local bottom is 67K, and the interesting fun fact is that is about the price that Bitcoin was at when the presidential election took place. And fun fact, every election cycle in the United States, Bitcoin has set a new higher floor that it respects going forward. And of course, it's only barely a 20-year-old asset, but that is still an interesting stat. I don't know if we can continue to see that going forward, but that's kind of what I expect too, is that 67, 70, somewhere in there is looking good.
Yeah.
I mean,
all I want to say to put a, sorry, Alex, go ahead.
No, go.
I was just going to say, just remember, guys, the timeline of events. We can have a reprieve in markets, but we are totally expecting there to be tariffs to be placed and the screws to be tightened again on the trade war that has been communicated directly out of the mouth of the president and also the Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick. At some point, the trade war is going to get worse again. Expect markets to dip when that happens.
But also, I mean, if the number of times that this nonsense, this dance continues, the less impactful any of those announcements are going to be. Like, if even just me myself, if I see one that's like, it's back on, I'm going to be like, okay, what, until tomorrow afternoon? You're like, that was fake.
Starts becoming the boy who cried wolf.
Yeah, it none of it means anything. Like, personally putting no faith in any of it.
Unless all those billionaires that were sitting in front of Trump's cabinet all just want the market to go down, make a couple phone calls, sell a couple things, make the market go down so that they have an amazing buy-in opportunity to further centralize their wealth.
I'm just, and I guess
Who thinks that's going to happen? Anybody with a brain.
Yeah, wait,
Anybody
Will, are
with
you
a brain.
suggesting that billionaires want more money?
I mean, I've said a lot of crazy things on this show.
It's the perfect time to buy.
I just love your reaction to it, Will.
It's so good.
I appreciate that gets you.
It gets me every
It tickles
time.
me too. It tickles me
Oh,
too. We
man.
got to film another video in Toronto. Can
Yeah,
we
we do.
can we do a video where you try to sell us the CN Tower or something like that? Can we
Yeah,
reprise
that'd be
those
great.
characters, the gullible fools? And
I'll bring a very businessy suit.
yeah.
Hey there, normies.
I can't wait.
We also
Maybe
gotta
like
come
a
up-
gold bar.
We also got to think of like a skit video that like incorporates Polygon or something into it, because Polygon's bringing us out there. Oh, sorry. Polygon's
Easy
bringing
killer.
us out there, so we should do like a funny skit video
Ayo.
for Polygon. That'd be fun.
Yeah. Have you seen? Oh, dude, did you see?
I'll get to
Nil
writing.
was wearing a shirt that had Polygon on the chest, but it looked like Pokemon. Like it was the Pokemon branding, but it
Oh,
said
sick.
Polygon. I was like,
Oh,
dude,
nice.
gonna
Yeah, that's
need
fire.
that shirt.
Gonna need that shirt.
Oh man, yeah. Shout out Polygon and shout out Consensus. If you are interested in learning about crypto, I gotta tell you, the best hack is find a meetup, go to a conference. There are a lot of them all the time. Just Google crypto conferences 2025 or
There's
crypto
a ton.
conferences, and then put the major metro near you to see what's up. Go to Eventbrite and look them up. A lot of crypto people post their events on Luma, lu.ma, and you can just go to a city near you and see what the events are. You don't have to buy a ticket to an expensive conference to get benefit from going to be near one. A lot of side events are
No,
totally
just
free.
be in the city.
Just be
Yeah.
in the city. It's a really good time. And I would recommend, I think they just bumped up the ticket prices for Consensus, but we have a thread in the Rise Up Discord server right now where people are coordinating lodging or tickets together. If it's something you're interested in going to, we're going to have a little side event there so that people who watch the show or who want to talk about crypto without feeling totally broed out can come and eat and hear themselves speak to
I'll
each
tell
other.
you, like that's the secret sauce. Being able to have like a totally normal, with a big group of people, a totally normal conversation about this stuff and not be the weird one. In fact, to be like probably one of the tame ones compared to some of the people you're going to meet is it's a rejuvenating kind of feeling. It breathes life back into me every time I go do it. It's like a therapeutic experience to attend conferences for me.
It's
And
so
meanwhile, Alex just drives me into the ground as he drags my limp corpse with
It's-
zero social battery just across the conference floor.
It's gonna get worse this time, Will. Just
No, I have a strategy. I'm
Start-
going in and I'm
start
saying,
eating your
Alex,
Wheaties now.
See you later. I'm on caffeinated and my social battery is high. I'm going to go around to every single booth. I'm going to talk to everybody, get done what's done in about an hour and a half, walk up to you and go, I will see you at the evening event tonight, Alex. And I'm going to the Airbnb.
all I'm
Right,
saying
you know-
is, you know why I know everybody, Will? That's why.
Yeah.
That's
but
why I know everyone.
That's it. That's why I need you there, because otherwise I can't do it.
You know
Can't
what
do
though?
it.
That's what I love about our dynamic is we all have a different way of doing it. Like I have no doubt that if like East Denver is such a crunchy granola conference, but I have no doubt that if we were at I don't know, a more TradFi attracting conference, that Will would be in a cigar lounge with dudes in suits, living his very best life. And
Oh, dude, you put me in a cigar lounge, I can be there for hours.
Yeah. So we just need to go to the conference where we can deploy Will to his appropriate, like, look for the briefcases.
To my appropriate setting.
That's right. Briefcases and suits. That's where Will's going.
Yeah, I'll have a great time there.
Trees and flowers. Send Evan over there. A bunch of nerds. Alex is in. You know what I mean? Like, we're set. And we may be brothers, but we're not bros.
If Evan says
also-
crunchy granola, I really believe it.
Yeah.
It's so true. It's so crunchy. It's so granola. If you're just joining us, or you're just tuning in for the first time, then hey, let me remind you, we're live Monday through Thursday. You can join us in the mornings at 7 a.m. Central Standard Time from TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, wherever you are, whenever you listen. And if you're listening on one of those platforms, let me remind you that we also have these episodes available as a YouTube recording after the fact, a podcast recording. But if you want to come live, that's where you get to ask your best right now questions. You get to see the cool gifts everybody sends us that animate
they're
the
so
screen.
cool.
It's so cool. Thank you very much for the support.
That's what's
And
happening,
you
by
get
the way.
to
We're not
see-
just, Alex and I aren't just going, hey.
No, yeah.
We're not on the spectrum. Probably a little bit, but we're not totally there.
And you get to see us drink from Rise Up Morning Show mugs, and what's better than that? Hey, I have to tell you guys really quick that if you want to support the show by buying a morning show mug, then you have got to do that fast, because the Rise Up Morning Show mug first edition is soon to be retired, okay? After over a year of service,
Over a year.
we are going to retire this mug. You will not be able to get it anywhere else unless you buy it from Tech CEO, because I know he's got a back catalog. He's just waiting. He's just waiting for me to stop selling this thing so he can jack up the price. The number one
Don't
mug
let Tech
salesman.
CEO manipulate the mug market.
Yo, dude, he's totally going to.
Now, I wanted to get some feedback, so hit me with a screen share on this. I thought, since we went with a black mug last time, that for the second edition of the morning show mug, we could do a white mug. And this is what I'm thinking for
Have
the
you seen it?
design.
Do you have?
Oh, okay.
Because
Yeah, hang
I
on.
know what you're talking about, Alex, but we can't do that mug. Not with our
Why not?
hookup. Not with our supplier hookup. I will tell you offline, off the show. It's a beautiful mug, but I don't have a good hookup for purple ceramic.
Is it more of the purple? Damn. Okay, I had
Yeah.
in my head purple, but this is still.
I
purple.
had in my head purple too. I really wanted purple, but I've gone with the white, the classic diner look.
The
so that
white.
you can, and this mug is cool too, because you can order it in a traditional coffee mug size. You can order it in a tall coffee mug size, 15 ounces, or
on.
you can get
Come
a
on.
20-ounce coffee mug.
Son
Will,
of
I'm
a
so
bitch.
sorry.
God damn it.
No espresso yet.
Ah,
No espresso
Hold on.
yet.
Is it purple, Evan? I don't think that the Kaio redesign. I don't think it is.
Your options, Alex, are black,
No. Hold on.
white,
Hold on.
and white with accents on the handle.
there's
or the
got
inside
to
of
be
the cup.
somebody who does purple.
There's got to be. And here's the thing. If you work in the promo products industry and you sell in quantities as low as one and do drop shipping and let people design, then I want you to call me, because that used to be my job.
Yeah.
But
This one.
I don't have a
Evan.
good hookup anymore.
This
Between
one, yeah.
all the major suppliers, Printify, Printful, so on and so forth. What are you sending me? Are you sharing something?
There has to
I'm,
be. There has to be someone on Etsy you could contact.
Yeah, but somebody on Etsy is going to charge our wonderful viewers $50 a mug, and it's going to take a long, long time. And I
Well,
just don't think it's.
then
I
I
don't-
might get.
We can't,
I might
we can't
reach out
hold
on Etsy.
inventory.
I might reach out on Etsy and do a one-of-one tiny purple espresso cup.
Now
This
this is what you showed here. I see this. I'm going to show our viewers. I'll tell you why we can't do this. The print area on a mug is pretty much exclusive of the very bottom and the very top lip. So there would be a white band around the bottom where that blue band is for about probably a half an inch. Most mugs can't do. I don't personally know of any mug unless you design the mug that way. You order the ceramic custom from a factory, and you'd have to start at quantities like hundreds, thousands.
Damn.
And we're not moving that many mugs yet. It's a
Lame.
beautiful design. I love it a lot, but for now it's a pipe dream. Which is not to say that, you know, I think that new mug will get a lot of mileage. If you hate the mug, if you love the mug, you got to let me know. If you run a custom drop shipping store, let me know that too. And let's get back to answering crypto questions. We got about 30 minutes left on the show. Plenty of time to answer your crypto question. So let us know what you're thinking. You got something for me, Alex?
I was going to say, I know we're going to do the full conversation about story, but I don't know if people are even familiar with what it is. We could always preview it a little bit about what it is, because I'm not even sure what I don't know what your beef is.
That's a great
curious
point.
about your beef.
I am glad to give you my beef. Let's do that, and then let's answer this question from Uncle T, who said, "It's the first day of first grade. How do I start learning about crypto?"
Ooh,
And
great question.
I want everyone's answers in the comments for that. Let me say to LOL Nope, we have a long conversation at the start of this episode about Om Mantra. You can find it on the recording after the show, wherever you get your podcasts. Check it out because we give a lot of thoughts. Will, what was it that made you just, your first take? Just an initial, like, you're positive on it. What is mantra? What is Story Protocol? Or do you want me to give the overview?
Or do we want to address the question of if I pretend I'm in first grade?
I want to address that question. I just wanted to prep people. We're gonna talk about Story more in depth on the show tomorrow. So do your homework prep, but I just wanted to give people the bull case, the bear case, so they could hear what it is. It's a layer 1 blockchain that is designed
so we'll chat about
to
that
make
first.
it easy to integrate intellectual property solutions. Like right now, if I have a great idea, I might put it on my smart contract for NFTs. A smart contract that creates NFTs for me to establish a record of my idea. But that doesn't really go anywhere. If I take that to a patent office, they're going to be like, what the hell is this? At best, it's a record. It's a provable record. But kind of Story's thing is, unlike general purpose blockchains, they are specifically designed not only to register, but to track, to license, and help people monetize their intellectual property. So not just minting an NFT, but like attesting and linking to the IP and to social identities like my TikTok page or my Twitter, my GitHub. If somebody builds on top of that IP, then the smart contract can automatically send me royalties and other things like that. Other chains can do this with enough custom smart contracts, but Story is trying to make it a native, out-of-the-box experience. Just register, license, go.
Yeah.
So
So what? Yeah, I really like what they're trying to do. Right, and I'm just talking about their solution first. Is if I like projects, I really like projects where they try to create a win-win for the creator or company and the consumer and remove the middleman, right? They remove the needless, friffy, flaffy, floofy stuff and they don't create a scam, which is a problem in crypto. So what Story does is if you try to go through like the IP process today, there are a lot of paper contracts, there are lawyers, it's time consuming, it's expensive, right? So thinking about this from a creator, right, or a company. So what IP or Story enables you to do is it enables you to do that much more cheaply, much more quickly, in a totally digital way to be able to get your IP kind of up and running and off the ground, get your product out there, right? But also have it be legally compliant and automated for payment purposes, for royalty purposes, for licensing purposes as well. So you're making it a much easier and faster process for consumers to use and interact with you and to have that be legally compliant and to have payments flow across and back and forth and have licensing, take place and all that stuff. So it's faster, it's cheaper, it cuts out middlemen, it improves the experience for the creator and company, and it improves the experience for the consumer while enabling you to go to market faster as both the company and the consumer. So those are all great things. I really like the idea of the solution. I think it's a win-win across the board in about every single factor that matters. That makes me excited about Web3 gaming, makes me excited about DeFi. And I really like that. So it's real world applications to a real world problem, transforming a massive industry. So I like those things. That's why I like Story. And then you have the other things on there too, where you take NFTs and you make them smarter. They can hold tokens, they can execute transactions, they can do a few other things. I have to look more closely into it. But as a whole, I just like what they're trying to do and what they're targeting because I see opportunity.
Alex, do you have anything just to add to that light bull case before I give the con case and we wrap it up and move it on?
Yes, but
You wanna
I
save it
almost
for the
want
debate?
I want to go last.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, we're like fresh into it. We might as well have this talk today. I feel like that's like it will open the box strong. So, okay, great. I'll give a rebuttal to that, which is all of that is great, but it's still mostly potential, not proof. And general purpose chains like Ethereum or Base or others, they can adapt. And they can already host smart contracts of all kinds for IP if they need to. I get it that Story is designed to do this, but they don't have the network effects, the use, the developer community, the security that ETH and Base do. And my problem is that as like a new flashy out of the box protocol with a ton of funding, now what they've created is like a bad incentive structure, in my opinion, for future growth, because this is like a low float, high FDV token. What does that mean? It means that the tokenomics, the early investments are such that this token has a relatively low circulating supply, but it has a very high relative to what it's done, market cap and fully diluted valuation. The reason that companies do this, that they raise so much money to do a design this way, is it makes it really cheap and easy. Their token becomes valuable or is perceived as valuable for all the people they need to sell it to before it comes to you. When they want to go to Binance and get a listing, they don't have to send Binance as many of their tokens to send them $10 million worth of tokens. They don't have to send World Liberty Financial as many tokens. They don't have to give as much up to give a lot of value. But where that buck kind of stops is at everyday people. And often what happens with low float, high FDV tokens is VCs sell, exchanges get rich on transaction volume, early supporters and team members sell, they get rich, or the funding eventually, because they've raised so much money. Like in solving this problem, in delivering a token, users don't want the token, nobody builds there, everybody's rich already, and so they give up and go do something else. Maybe they found another company, maybe their advisors somewhere else. I just don't think it's a good incentive that aligns future building, even though the solution is cool, with like returning value to investors, actually creating a product.
I think that's totally fair.
So it could be cool, but I'm waiting to see. Proof in the pudding.
Yeah, having the security and network effect on like an Ethereum or Solana would really be nice. But I am just looking at Story for like, if we're about to have, if the bull run continues here, it can run on all this hype and do well.
I think absolutely.
Yeah.
I think you're right.
But
But
long
it's already
term,
got
I
a
think-
high valuation,
I think everything you just highlighted are all long-term problems. And I think those are really big long-term problems. And Story and IP could be something that just kind of goes away as the bull run goes away.
Yeah.
It could totally happen.
Yeah. Alex, do you have a rebuttal to my rebuttal?
Kind of. I think that you and I are focusing on different pieces of it, because I'm stuck on the idea that like there has never been an attempt at fixing this problem, and I have a whole list of cons to go along with with Story as it stands. Just like, okay, tokenizing these things is great, but there is zero legal precedent to argue IP law as it relates to something being tokenized. There has never been a case, a lawsuit or anything that has been tried in court that touches anything IP related plus tokens. It's completely untested. The idea of putting IP related protections into smart contracts, the barrier to entry to use it is high. All these kinds of things exist, but I don't think any of that matters in the long term when you're looking at like something that is taking a stab at something that hasn't been attempted before. And it's just so refreshing to see a completely unique use case that actually has some sort of demand in a intellectual property is a $3+ trillion market industry sector. It's gigantic. And there are a lot of issues with it. And I just think the idea of adding tokens to it's one of the best uses of the technology that is tokenization and a blockchain that I've seen since entering the space. That alone makes me excited. I will concede immediately that I almost never look at these things as investments. I look at Bitcoin as an investment, and it's basically the only thing.
Yeah, me too.
Everything else I look at as products and solutions to problems and experiments that need to be taken. There is no legal precedent, but someone has to take the first attempt. The first case has to be tried. There was a point in every sector of law wherein there was no precedent, and then someone did the first case. So all of that, I think, like, you know, long-term, I mean, there are long-term tokenomic concerns with Aerodrome, and yet it's one of the few protocols in the entire industry that is turning a regular and healthy profit, even when the markets are cratered and their token is down from what, over $2 and change down to 30 cents, and they're still generating revenue. I just have a hard time allowing myself to get hung up on some tokenomic concerns when there are so many tokenomic concerns across so many different cryptocurrencies, so many bad incentives. I mean, Evan, how long would it take you to run out of fingers if you were trying to count bad incentive structures and projects that you'd seen that didn't have a super unique use case that had never been really attempted before and is this robust?
Yeah,
if you
but again,
sit there on
that just makes me agree with Will. Short-term investment potential, totally.
Sure.
It's got the mind share. It's doing cool stuff.
I'm saying ignore the investment potential.
Yeah,
I'm saying
ignoring the investment potential.
leave it out of the
saying
conversation.
I don't think as a company they have got what it takes to go the distance purely because they have built the incentives wrong.
I
That's
would
what I'm
counter again to say, look at how many projects are alive and thriving and still doing work and advancing the industry with just dog shit tokenomics and a token price in the gutter that never really came back.
Yeah, but they're doing very different things. I think
Sure.
fundamentally the business of swapping one token for another or providing liquidity is a killer use case for crypto that is well understood and established, much like stablecoins. And that is what somebody like Arrow or even somebody like Banana Gun is doing, or somebody providing crypto infrastructure like Lido is doing that kind of a service. And I think Story is such a different kind of company that is a model for like, here's something unique that blockchain can help us with. That probably will be a big part of whatever IP uses as a solution in the future. I think they put a bad crypto incentive model on it that looks like what other crypto companies have done to raise money, and that will hinder the ability of crypto to solve this problem to last in the world for very long. I don't think it's quite an apples to oranges comparison.
I do think it's too early to say that definitively, just because they can work on that kind of a thing. The risk that I could see running is that if they don't address a problem like that in the long term, yes, that problem could become too big to ignore. Despite
how are you going to address that? What are you going to do? Pay all the VCs back?
I'm just saying,
reduce the supply of your token. You know what I mean? Like, it's so hard to meaningfully fix that problem.
If you can maneuver, first of all, it depends on the VC. Not all of them behave the same way. Like Paradigm doesn't behave the same way the Dragonfly does. I mean, I don't know enough to say definitively that, like, yes, you have to, pay all of them back plus interest before you can do anything. I'm just saying you can work on the tokenomics model is kind of up in the air. There is no published max supply. We don't know 100% how they're going to go. The risk I could see is that they could end up being something like Gala, wherein this use case ends up being really in demand the way that gaming was. And then they kind of fall by the wayside because they refuse to get with the program and adapt, and someone launches like you said, an L2 or something Solana based or whatever that just has a better model and just, eclipses them. The standard that makes the whole thing more interesting, is really that 6551 account based NFT model. That's really interesting. And that's what they're using. The ability to pack a lot more stuff, a lot more specifically into a single token that more mimics an account. We could go more into 6551 later,
and here's one thing that they could do. Here's one thing that would actually address the bad tokenomics potentially, because you have the solution of something and you have the tokenomics where it really affects like the investment side of things, right? And as Alex, you mentioned, you can have really bad tokenomics and your solution does phenomenally well and moves the space forward and is a key piece of infrastructure, right? And in all terms, in ways you can look at it, is a phenomenal business, if not a great investment. But what I was going to say is, one thing that we could see address those bad tokenomics is you need demand to outweigh increased supply of a token on the market, whether that's because of inflation or selling by angel investors, so on and so forth. You could do what Render did. You could do what Helium did. Didn't Helium move to Solana? But Render moved to Solana, right? You can move to environments that have more liquidity, right? There's a lot of work that goes into that. So if Story is actually able to get some adoption and build its use case and build on-chain adoption for the business side of things, if it was really serious about like, hey, we're worried about the bad PR. We're not worried about the price of the token because we don't really care because we have money. But we're worried about bad PR, and we want more network security. We could go and move to Solana and bring our on-chain environment and get help from the Solana Foundation to do that, right? So that's one thing you could do, because then you enter a much bigger liquidity bucket that then starts eating away at your bad tokenomic effect.
Well, my understanding is that they're going to be releasing more tokens relatively soon. Or maybe this is just, I'm looking at Tokenomist. Hang on. I'd need to look at it a little closer just because. Oh, I see. They just unlocked this much. That's
I think
why.
that, Evan, if it proves to be that, there really isn't any legitimate demand and they can't get any major contracts signed or anything large, any large IP coming, or if they can't facilitate some sort of agreement to move any existing large scale IP onto Story, which, could easily get people excited. This has the potential to build like a, Fortnite style collaboration machine wherein it almost doesn't matter what's happening because the strength of the partnership that comes in negates the need for the game to evolve. And if they're able to facilitate stuff like that, then you could acquire enough demand in the meantime to make VCs happy and allow yourself to work on a tokenomics model that is more long-term. I think it's a lot of work. And the one thing I would admit to is that we don't know whether or not they have the chops to do it. I would admit that I'm very, very heavily focused on the fact that it's unique, it's needed. This is such a good example of where tokens can make something that is a problem or can be a problem stronger, and just add a layer of needed security to something that lots of people have a lot of interest in. That's pretty much, I think, where I'm at on it.
Yeah. Okay. Fair. Good thought.
Yeah, and I just see the business opportunity there. Gigantic industry, win-win for the consumer
huge.
and the customer.
Huge.
If they can execute, and that's the big thing. If you can execute, there's a huge opportunity.
Yeah.
We'll be keeping a close. It's one. That's it, Evan. You know how like last bull run, right? Everything that came out was like, it's the Web3 version of blah, and everyone's like, who gives a shit? This is one of those times when it's like, this is the Web3 version of something. It's like, oh fuck yeah, finally, this makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And that just feels nice. It feels nice after looking at so many piles of dog shit that did the same model and raised the same amount of money. Like, at least it's like, okay, guys, you got to do better on the token side. Like we need to work on this or whatever. But at least it's like not a stupid idea. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want to do the beginner thing? Because I have a very
do.
specific answer that I've worked on for a very long time for this.
Then just to refresh the question for anybody who missed it, it's the first day of first grade. You're learning crypto. I saw a lot of great answers in the comments. And so if you didn't answer before, here's your chance to chime in. Or if you just want to let folks know again, this is a show for learners at all levels of experience. And I especially would welcome you back on Wednesdays. We do Web3 101 Wednesday, really slow things down for basic beginner questions. And we have a lot of good stuff at the riseupmorningshow.com. There are recordings of the 4 classes you got to take to become a level 1 crypto user. It's going to teach you how to start using crypto, how to DeFi, how to avoid the most common scams and schemes in the space, and so much more. That's all at the links on the screen, the riseupmorningshow.com. So Alex, teach me, first day of first grade, where should I go to learn about crypto?
All right.
Oh, damn, he's got the notebook.
Yeah. Okay, so I do have a video. It's in my Crypto Basics playlist that has this whole thing in like long form video form. So you don't have to remember this. It's all in there. That playlist, it's one of the more recent videos in that playlist. So I broke this down to 9 steps. I believe that if you take these 9 steps from absolute scratch, that you'll be a lot farther ahead than I would say the majority of people trying to get started. And I think that you will have approached it the right way and built a very good foundation for yourself to continue to grow. Okay, so a couple of these steps are open-ended, but they're where I believe you need to start. So number 1 is an open-ended step. It's learn the jargon. There's a gajillion words, and there is no way around it. You have to learn the definitions on some of these words. So the best way to do it is to pick something to read, highlight the words you don't know, and look them up. And every single one of those ones that you look up is going to lead you down another rabbit hole with another 10 terms that you don't know, which will lead you to another 10 terms you don't know. And eventually you will, I still do this all the time. I run into words or terms or, EIPs or token standards or something that I've never seen before, and I have to start reading about it, and that inevitably leads me to something else. So,
I still screw up inflation and deflation. Hasn't held me back.
No,
You think
like I said,
would.
every day I have to remind myself the difference between custodial and non-custodial. It's my knowledge gap.
Yeah.
I'll never be 100% confident that I'm thinking of the right one. But the point is, step 1, start learning the jargon. That will lead you into everything else, and you'll never finish that step, but you will just continue to level up. That's also super important because you need to know when people are just buzzwording you, and that's how you sniff out bullshit more than anything, knowing what they mean. Because then all of a sudden, like I was on a live yesterday and somebody was trying to explain the difference between say and sui, except they said they were the same because they used the same ledger. And I'm like, what do you mean by that? And they couldn't answer the question. And I thought it was interesting that they chose to come back and answer my follow-up, like explain to me what that meant. And you could just tell it was all bullshit because I know what a ledger is, and I know what say is, and I know what sui is. And I know that they're fundamentally different, built for completely different purposes by different people with a different consensus mechanism and all this stuff. I wouldn't know that if I didn't spend so much time reading these jargon.
Influencers hate to see you coming, Alex.
They do.
Yeah.
They get nervous.
I get blocked a lot.
Any question? Oh. I think about
I have a question.
Yeah.
Number 2, find an on-ramp. There's a ton. There's a bunch of different forms too. So it really kind of depends on personal preference. There are not a lot of wrong answers here. Coinbase is an on-ramp. Kraken is an on-ramp. Binance is an on-ramp. An on-ramp basically just means, and here's your first jargon term, if you skipped all the way to step 2, a way to turn fiat currency into a cryptocurrency. It's any service that allows you to purchase crypto. So a centralized exchange, a service like MoonPay, Cash App, Venmo, PayPal, all these things. These are all examples of on-ramps. If you don't want to make a new account with something centralized like Coinbase or Kraken, you've never done that before, start with Cash App. You can get Bitcoin on PayPal, Venmo, Cash App, all that stuff. There's no need to go anywhere else if you don't want to. I personally like MoonPay quite a bit. I use it all the time. Not sponsored, but it should be.
Not sponsored.
Next, step 3, when you're buying the first thing, buy a stablecoin before you buy anything else. Don't start off by buying a volatile cryptocurrency. You need to be in the right mindset to hold something as volatile as crypto, as high risk as crypto, especially if you've never invested in anything before and you have no kind of sense of like how to build an investment portfolio or decide what to invest in, all that sort of stuff. Just start with a stablecoin. USDC is my favorite. There's a lot of options. USDT, Tether, DAI, PAXG is a gold pegged stablecoin. There's a bunch. Also, if the dollar is not your local fiat currency, there are stable euros, stable pesos, stable all sorts of stuff. Step 4, hot wallet. So the first thing that you're going to download and create a new account with is something called a hot wallet, another jargon term. Hot meaning connected to the internet. There's a ton of mobile applications that are completely free. There are browser extensions also completely free. You've probably heard some of these names: Phantom, MetaMask, Backpack,
Coinbase wallet.
Coinbase
Rainbow.
wallet,
Mm-hmm.
Rainbow. There's Trust Wallet, Exodus. There's a ton. Pick one. It doesn't really matter. which one you want to start with. It's kind of down to personal preference. They have different fee
I
structures.
will
They
say
have different.
it's important to find one that has the networks and tokens that you want to use. If you get like the Shaman wallet, which is very popular for XRP, expecting you're going to be able to hold Bitcoin and ETH and everything else, you'll be disappointed.
Yeah. But again, I would encourage you to start with one that is going to take the stable coin that you got. So Coinbase Smart, a great path that is, I mean, go figure, it's a multi-billion-dollar company that built it this way. Starting with a Coinbase account, getting the Coinbase hot wallet, and getting USDC on Coinbase. This is a very natural progression of steps, and they built it that way on purpose. However, Kraken has the same flow. There is the Kraken on-chain wallet. You can get USDC on Kraken. You can do the exact same thing. Binance, you can do the same thing. It really doesn't matter. Depends what's available to you. 5, transaction. Send your first transaction. You can send it to a friend. You can make a second wallet and send it to yourself. It doesn't matter. Learn this with a friend. Learn this with a community. Send $1 to somebody to get that general practice down. The steps of sending a transaction are going to be one of your most used skills the longer you are in here. It's the idea of confirming the address that you're sending these things to. It's the idea of signing a transaction to confirm that you actually want to do this. It's about making sure in the next wallet that it actually showed up. It's allowing yourself to then go look at it on a blockchain explorer and see what happened and read the data and see that record. And all of these things are the jargon. Everything I just said is jargon. Confirm a transaction, verify, validate, blockchain explorer. All these things are more things to look up. So as you're seeing these, you write this thing down. That's what you look up first. So that's how you do step 1, is by looking at steps 2 through 9. Next, swap. There are a ton of places that you can swap tokens. That's another jargon term. So
what does it mean?
I would go
switching one token for another, right?
Switching one token for another. Some of these words are pretty intuitive. The best way to do this then is to also couple it with the idea of being able to experiment using your first protocol, another term. Protocol is basically just a fancy crypto jargon term that we didn't really need for website or service product. Exchanges are protocols. So I would, and most of these wallets that I mentioned too have native swapping right in there. Like you look at the little, you look at your wallet and you see I'm holding USDC, and you open it up and you look at the USDC that you're holding. There's going to be probably a button right underneath that says swap, and you can go in there and search for any kind of token and swap it into that. I would personally just pick either the native token on the blockchain that you decided to use,
Or
whether it's, there's, like I said, the jargon
So
is
much
never
jargon.
ending. There's a reason that step 1 is a never ending step to learn jargon. So swap. The idea here is that we want to hold something volatile that we have no real emotional attachment to, no expectations for. We are expecting to watch it go down in value and then to go up in value. The only way to learn to stomach that is to experience it. So
yeah, and we're talking with like a small amount of money. You bought $10
talking a
of
few
stable
bucks.
coins, and you're going to swap $5 into Bitcoin. If that's a really significant amount of money for you, you're going to use even less, $1 of USDC, and then 50 cents of Bitcoin or something like that. Scale it for yourself so that you're not worried about this stuff.
One of the reasons that this is so powerful that we've talked about is that no matter what the amount of money that you are interested in using, whether it's literally $5 or you're like, no, dude, I got it like that. I'm going to start with $5,000 because I want to learn. It doesn't matter. And there is a network to facilitate that. Like maybe you're not going to use Ethereum if you only want to do $5 because you're going to pay $2 in the gas. And honestly, gas is cheaper than $2 right now anyway. So, but you could use Polygon, you could use Solana, you could use Avalanche, you can pay a lot less in fees. More jargon to look up. Next is beginning the research into a specific project. There is a never-ending amount of projects. Pick one and learn about it. You'll find more jargon. You'll find more projects. You will fall down more rabbit holes about things. Why does this one exist? Why is it good? Why is it bad? Pros, cons, whatever. Probably just best to pick a big layer 1, another jargon term, like Ethereum or Polygon or Avalanche or Solana. Just pick one of those big major networks in the top 25 cryptocurrencies by market cap kind of a thing. And
Don't
just
look
learn
at Pi.
about it.
Skip Pi.
Skip Pi.
Skip pie.
Skip Pi. Yeah.
She said.
So now that we're there, that is kind of an endless loop of things that you can be doing. Finding new wallets to use that are better or worse than the one that you started with. Different exchanges, on-ramps that you prefer, that are cheaper, that are faster, that are better, that have more options, whatever. More jargon to learn, more stable coins to buy, more transaction types that you can send, more friends that you like, all of this kind of stuff. It just keeps looping. You can stay in that loop forever, and that's where most people are. And the better you get at all those things, just the more native you become to this whole industry. So steps 8 and 9 are kind of removed from that. Step 8 is designing a strategy. If you've never invested before, you have a lot more stuff that you need to learn about investing and how much and budgeting and all these different things. So I wrote down risk appetite and amount. How much risk are you comfortable taking? That's going to dictate a whole bunch of stuff. How much money you put into stuff, what you put it into, how long you hold it for, all that sort of stuff. Time horizon. Are you trying to do this for the next week? Are you trying to gamble? Are you trying to flip some weekend money? Or are you trying to build something to complement your 401k that you don't want to touch for the next 20, 30 years? Diversification plan. How many different things do you want to hold? Are you comfortable holding 1 thing, 2 things, 5 things, 10 things? Knowing that the more different assets you hold, the more time you're going to have to spend making sure you're up to date on those things. So start small, let yourself grow. I started huge, regretted it, spent the next how many years whittling it down and correcting all of my mistakes. And now I'm comfortably holding like 4 or 5 things at the most at any given point, in any kind of significant. I have like 40 different kinds of tokens, but most of them are just like teeny little blips that just to say that I have a couple of them just in case kind of a thing. But they're not investments. I don't even know where they all are. Who knows? And then routine. Some sort of a routine to learn new things. Setting yourself up for how much time you're willing to spend learning about this. There's no wrong answer. You don't have to spend 6 hours a day doing it. You can spend 10 minutes a day doing something. You can spend just the amount of time it takes you on the toilet to learn something. You can listen to a podcast when you're driving. It really doesn't matter. There's no wrong answer. Just pick something that works for you, that fits into the rest of your life and doesn't, drive you insane. And then the last step is really just make it a point to learn something new every single day. Keep your mind open to being changed. If you find out new information, one of the biggest things that leads people to getting wrecked in cryptocurrency is deciding after a little bit of time that you've found the one end all be all, which is just silly to say with an industry this young, and then refusing to sway and just becoming a diehard and getting mad at everyone who doesn't like it and making it your whole personality. And then those people lose money more than anybody else. I'm sorry to say, that's just how it goes. That sticks with, keeping your bias in check, staying objective, and then remaining agile to reacting to how the market handles and what goes on, and bad news that comes out, good news that comes out, new protocols that launch, all this kind of stuff. So that was a lot. That's 9 steps. Like I said, the whole thing is in a video that you can save and rewatch and do whatever. It's in the Crypto Basics playlist. I do have a PDF for this, I think.
I was going to say, is there a guide forthcoming? I feel like that matches one of the guides you've written.
It does, but I think I wanted to turn it into like a literal workbook with like spaces to write stuff.
I think that's a good idea.
And so
when Alex does that, we are going to turn it into a guide that you can get at theriseupmorningshow.com. And to get you started, I just want to share one quick resource. Alex mentioned a glossary, and I think it's great to keep your own notebook, but we've got one to kind of get you started that you can download totally for free at the very top of the website. You can click this, you drop us your email, and then boom, it's yours. We send it to you. You can add to it. It's got, I don't know, it's got like 80, maybe 100 terms that cover everything from layer 1, talks about Bitcoin, talks about ETH, talks about hot wallet, talks about cold wallet. One of the things that was a notable absence for me, and we had a good question about, is I noticed you didn't mention learning to use a cold wallet. Is there a reason for that?
I could include it in the make a hot wallet. I should probably just generalize that to, learn about wallets and get some hot and cold.
I wouldn't put them together. I don't think they belong together.
I mean, I think there's a difference, but I think the idea is the same thing. Like it's assuming custody and control of assets that you hold, which is a big and daunting task in the beginning. So it should be in there.
I was just going to say, like, if the goal of this list is to learn about crypto, you just need to be familiarized with the wallet. if you're just trying to learn about crypto. And hot wallets are easy and fast to go and do the other stuff that you mentioned.
Well, we had a question. Somebody said, is it okay to just use Coinbase in my cold wallet? And my answer to them was going to be yes.
Yeah.
It depends on
absolutely.
what kind of user you are. But, you know, there are some people for whom a cold wallet might not be as easy. You know, if they wanted to go use, test out a bunch of different DeFi protocols, it's probably a little less friction to have a Coinbase wallet that they can very quickly port their assets over to a social wallet with some walking around money and just go to a bunch of different websites, click the extension, log in, as opposed to having a passcode on a device or having to scan. I mean, it's not cumbersome, but it would not be my first choice if that's the kind of use I wanted to do. You know, different strokes for different folks.
This is really framed as an action plan. You know, if I'm just interested in reading, really the steps are just step 1 straight to step 9. It's read and learn the jargon and understand what all these weird words mean. Read as many as you can, and then just keep learning something new every single day and spend exactly as much time as makes sense. The rest of it is designed really to be more like you need to go do these things and this is how I learn. I have to learn by doing. I can't just only read. I have to then go screw around with it and screw something up. And
same here.
Well, and most of the jargon that you mentioned, you're going to learn practically what it is by doing all those steps Alex gave you. And all those things are things that if you become a crypto user, you're going to do again and again and again and again and again. So you need to develop some competence with those things.
100%.
Will, did you have anything to add to Alex's list, or are you guys about ready to take our dogs and ponies and walk into the sunset with a final thought?
No, I really don't have anything to add.
It's a good list.
I thought it was a pretty extensive list.
Yeah, I thought so too. I was really impressed. Not
it
surprised.
did take me about 5 or 6 years to write it, so you know.
If you've got a final thought, a question, a suggestion, a good joke, a word of wisdom, let us know. We're going to be back tomorrow, same time, same place, 7 a.m. Central Standard Time, and you can catch the recording of this and many more episodes on YouTube. Search the Rise Up Morning Show. You can find the After Dark playlist there too, or on your favorite podcast platform, and we have got all the links for you at theriseupmorningshow.com. Gentlemen, final thoughts. Will, what you got for us?
Only final thought I have to share is Wednesday. We have some earnings reports coming out from companies this week, but really the big thing to keep your eyes open for is Jerome Powell has a speech on Wednesday. He's not supposed to make any decision around interest rate cuts or anything like that. That's not until May, but it'll be interesting to see what Jerome Powell has to say about potentially supporting the market with interest rate cuts and maybe even buying bonds. At least get his opinion on the bonds market. I know people will ask him that. So yeah, keep your eyes open for what comes out of that, because if he says anything about we're here to support the market and pump it up if need be, you know, that'll be good news for the market and can extend a rally.
Got to pump it up. Hey, pump it up. Could you imagine if he showed up and that song was playing?
I would sell everything.
I would
I would sell everything.
I'd run for the hills. Alex, what about you? Final thought?
Just to say, bear with us this week. Evan's taking a little bit of a trip, and we are trying to wrangle everything tech-wise to make sure that the stream doesn't involve or we don't have a big hiccup this week. But we'll keep you guys posted in the Discord and on the Twitter if there are any updates to when it's going to be running or if it's going to be only TikTok or something like that. Annoyingly, my board yes, it's on shame. It's on display as full of shame right now.
Oh, no, it's in air jail, just like Arlo.
It's in air jail because right now it's just a large brick with a lot of buttons. It just completely died for some reason. So luckily it's still under a warranty, so I just have to go deal with all of that. But unfortunately, if that doesn't get fixed, the stream will probably only be on TikTok on Wednesday and Thursday, but we will keep you guys posted. And then my final thought will be to shout out our dear friend Nil, who's about to make himself known in the chat right now, Nil, so people can see you and follow you.
He's been chatting with people.
I know. I'm just saying he's about to transition to his live stream next. And if you're just like, God damn, I'm not ready for the show to end, you can go hang out with Nil and ask Nil questions and support another fantastic creator who is recently made the entrance to TikTok and is absolutely crushing it.
Yeah. Big shout out to our friend Big No Collect. Also, Big No Collect on Twitter and the whole Polygon crew. Can't wait to hang out at Consensus and do some more fun stuff there too.
Amen.
It'll be a good time.
Amen. It will be a good time, and we will tell you about it. You'll be the first to hear about it. So, my final thought will be check out the Rise Up Morning Show mug, the first edition, limited edition before it's gone. You can get yours at the riseupmorningshow.com. It makes your coffee taste better. It makes your kids less hyper when you drink coffee from this mug, and people will say, wow, you look good and also smart today. Of course, none of these claims are verified by the health administration in your country. Fact check yourself, brother. Void where prohibited. Batteries not included. See store for details. We have got to go. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us on another episode of the Rise Up Morning Show. Until next time, everybody, stay safe, be well. Friends, rise up.
See ya.